Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Divorce Happens, the podcast where we support you before, during, and after divorce with education, inspiration, a little bit of laughter, because as we know, divorce happens and then you start fresh. And we're here with one of our experts, Allie. Allie, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I sure can. So I'm Allie Plant, as I like to say to anybody that I'm speaking to on the phone. That's plant like a flower, but put an E at the end. And I am a yoga teacher, a librarian, a witch. I'm taking that mantle.
Yep, love that.
And generally, I like to call myself like just a good friend. I'm everybody's
It's
good
true.
friend upon
It's
meeting
true.
them.
It's true. Allie is not just a great friend, she's an amazing friend, and she's my go to witch for anybody listening. She was actually one of the very first people I told about my divorce, and she sent me a healing crystal, which I just passed on to somebody else who needed it after 5 years.
So
So,
important.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about divorce for a second. Obviously, you're a yoga teacher, you work with
Hmm.
thousands of women, you do
I do.
retreats, you have worked with so many people. What is the relationship between yoga and the healing process of divorce specifically?
Yeah. So, yoga is one of those interesting things, right? Because I think everyone knows it. I mean, certainly given like where I was born and where I went to school, where I was raised, where I went to college, yoga was a ubiquitous thing. And it was always originally sort of presented to me as something that was unattainable, something that was for the skinny white ladies,
Mhm.
of which I am a white lady, but I am not skinny. Um,
We
and
love we love a body here at Fresh
we
Starts,
love it.
yeah.
We love a thick lady.
Yeah.
Um, and I never really thought about it as much more than a physical activity. I sort of put it in
Mm,
the same bucket. And this is, by the way, no shade, but this is, I put it in the same bucket as like any other cardio workout.
right.
And it wasn't until my young adulthood when I was dealing with some health issues that I decided, you know what? I'm going to try it because the internet says it's good for what I'm dealing with right now.
Mm,
And when I joined that particular community where I first started taking yoga, I was immediately aware of how diverse the crowd was. And I don't want to like sell a fake bill of goods. I mean, there is definitely something that tied us all together. We all lived in Hoboken or Jersey City,
yeah.
so northern New Jersey. We were all many of us were working in Manhattan, right? We had those common factors in our background, but extremely diverse in terms of age, background, shape, right?
Yep.
Flexibility, mobility. And so, taking those first couple of classes, I was just struck with how universal this practice can be for everyone.
Mm,
And from there, ended up working with a lot of women who just happened to be going through different life changes with their partners, some divorces, some breakups, um, and just changing housing situations,
yeah.
those types of things. And was first introduced to this concept of a somatic practice, a
Mm,
practice that can help to release energy that is stored and stuck in different parts of our body, which frankly it happens. This is not, I
mhm.
do not like this term, this is not my term, but this is not like a woo woo situation. This is a situation where um, people have studied where we actually hold our emotions in our body
Mm,
and what it can do in terms of cutting off our airflow, cutting off our ability to want to get up and move, ultimately kind of having some issues, right, in like our cardiovascular system, right,
mhm.
our lymphatic system, our ability to let go of waste, right.
Mm,
And so that kind of got me thinking, there is a whole population of people who are looking at yoga and saying, not for me. And i'm
yeah.
and i'm here from the other side going, I also didn't think it was for me,
Yeah.
but it very much is for you, especially for anybody who is trying to pass some of this very difficult emotion.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
which definitely happens and so many feelings get stuck. I think we don't talk enough about how feelings are things, right? They can get stuck in your body
A
as you're
hundred
moving
percent.
through a divorce. So if somebody's listening to this and they're not a yoga person, they've never done yoga, but they're having a lot of trouble processing the divorce or what's going through their life right now, what
Mhm.
would you say, why would you say that yoga is so important to try right now?
I think this is a great question because I have at various times of my life, right? Things have happened, and I used to hear this idea that like you don't want to do any like great life changes while you're going through some of these upheavals. I don't know if
Mhm.
that is still the like
I
modus
mean, I
operandi.
think that you
Yeah,
have to be careful, right? Especially with divorce, it's a legal process, it's a
correct.
financial process, right? So you want to be careful, but you still need to heal.
Yeah, and I only say that not because I'm prefacing this by saying don't start a yoga practice, but I'm
Yeah,
prefacing this by saying that yoga is probably one of the things that you can start
right.
and you can change while you're going through the process of divorce or even pre-divorce where you're
Yeah.
thinking, because I know you always talk about that stat that women think about a divorce, what is it, 2
2
years
years,
before they
yeah.
actually
Mhm.
initiate. um, and um, I think that you can actually start to
Right.
do yoga, to invite this practice into your life, and it can help you come to these decisions and also even out your brain, right?
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
smooth the brain, but
Yep.
to even it out,
Yeah.
because anytime we're going through these big choices, these big shifts in life, whether or not we decide to go through with something or not, we have the cacophony of thoughts,
Yeah.
and that I think is single-handedly the hardest thing to deal with,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because what is actually happening is you are having this argument back and forth in your head, and then you have these like third and fourth and fifth other
Yep.
conversations coming in. And what the practice does, at the start of every practice, we have class sit down, we breathe, we do what's called a dharma talk, right?
Mm.
And some folks might call it something slightly different, but it's this sort of centering, this grounding that brings us all
Mhm.
together, and you really drop in, right? I think a lot of practices talk about
Yeah.
dropping in, but when we're
Yeah.
talking about the physical practice of yoga, you drop in, and for 60 minutes, 75 minutes, whatever it is, right, you are only thinking about your body moving on the mat,
Mm. Mm.
and it
Interesting.
becomes like a mantra.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there is curious about starting a meditation practice, or what a mantra actually is, how do you actually use that in
Mhm.
life, I think sometimes that asana practice and having people come in, it's a really nice entry point for some of these harder practices to cultivate.
Mhm. Mhm. And if you can't make it to a class, what's your best option if you need to feel grounded and
Ooh,
move your body?
yeah, if you can't make it to a class, you don't need to. I want to be the first, as somebody who makes her money from being a yoga teacher, I want to be very transparent. You don't have to be. And I'm very upfront about that. I do not want distance, money, access, childcare. I never want any of that to be a barrier to doing this practice. You can find excellent teachers online that offer
Yep.
their services up for free. Sometimes they'll put up, a little sampling of a class.
Mhm.
Yoga for Adrian
Yep.
is, I think I mean, she's a gold standard. Absolutely check her out. There are a couple of other folks that I particularly like. Her old screen name, I should have double checked this. Her old screen name was Nourished by Natasha. Maybe Liv, I'll send you
Okay.
the her actual link. But there is a woman who offers at least updates. I know monthly her yoga classes, and I really find them super accessible. So
I love that.
definitely online. And for many years, yoga has been something that folks have taught themselves from a book that they get out of the library.
Mhm.
Some many of my students, that is how they originally learned how to practice asana.
Yeah.
So they would actually like just check a book out of the library. It would just be a book of poses, and then they would practice those poses. And I think that if you have, if nothing else, spending 10 minutes a day when you first get up,
Mm.
um, my suggestion would be like a seated pose, a
Mhm.
standing pose, downward facing dog,
Mm.
shavasana.
Mhm.
That's what I would do, just to feel your body move,
Yeah.
because so many of these poses, they get into your shoulders and your hips. And that is really where we have that
Mm,
stagnant energy build up that
yeah.
creates physical pain
Yeah, we carry all of our emotions in our hips,
in the
right?
hips.
Yeah, and also you are a librarian and many
Yes.
libraries offer yoga classes as well, right? For very, very cheap or even for free sometimes.
Yes.
I know
Oh,
we have that here on Long
we
Island.
yes, most do. I would just double check because they don't always put the what they call like the community or the karma classes on. So what I would do is you could always call
Mm,
and double check
great
with them.
advice.
But
Yeah.
usually especially if a studio has like a teacher training program, like that's
Yep.
how we do it in the studios that I have worked
Okay.
at. They'll have the newer teachers will offer free classes, and
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
honestly and what I like about it, because you and I always talk about
Yep.
this idea, right, of you're, building community,
Yep.
creating community,
Yep.
protecting community. Um, then you're there to give feedback.
Yeah,
You are
I love
also
that.
providing a service when you
Yeah,
do this.
I love that. And also, I will say too, Cosmic Kids Yoga is a fantastic YouTube
Ooh, yeah, I don't know
for the
them.
kids.
Hmm.
Oh, it's wonderful. She's great, and they do super fun videos for kids that I did with my kids during my own divorce during the pandemic. So if you
Hmm.
want to get your kids involved, I love that too. Allie, where do you work if people are interested in working with you?
Yes. So I am actually in two fantastic studios. If you are in the Manhattan, Hoboken, Jersey City, if you live in those areas, I bet you know the cities that are close to them too. I am at a studio called Yoga Renew. It's in Hoboken. Come check us out. The parking is tricky, but our classes are worth it. There's tons of parking garages.
Love it.
I teach on Sundays, but everybody that I teach with down there is absolutely fantastic. We're some of the best in the game. And then if you are in upstate New York or in the capital region of New York State, I also teach at a school called JAI, that is JAI. It is listed technically as being in Slingerlands, New York, but that I have come to learn is like a suburb of Albany.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And before we let you go, Allie, if somebody's listening to this and they're going through a divorce right now, what would be some words of encouragement that you could leave them with?
This might sound trite, but I want to say it to you directly, which is you're not a number, you are a person, and there have been many people who have been where you are.
Mm,
And your people are there to love you. And there are also new people who are there to love you. So don't be afraid to open up and share how you're feeling day to day with the folks that you come in contact with, especially in a healing space like a yoga studio.
I love that so much. Well, you can find much more from Allie. She has some great podcast episodes and tips and so many things over at Fresh Starts Registry in the Expert Guide. Thank you so much, Allie.
Thank you.